Hi, my name's Heidi. I'm a grateful recovering addict, and today we're going to talk about step 3. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. What that step tells me is that I have to take some action. And it says we. And I got my we from working step 2, where it talks about coming to believe in a power greater than ourselves. So I'm inviting something in with me, so it makes 2, so it's we. And we made a decision. A decision takes action. I learned also in step 2 that when I'm giving something over to a power greater than myself, I'm putting it in the care of. So when I get to step 3, I'm prepared when I make that decision because I have my evidence from step 2 that I can trust this process. So we make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. My will would be running in, robbing a liquor store, running back out, and jumping in the car and taking off. God's will for me would be to do the next right thing. And what I mean by that is when you work this step, you get to get your own higher power. You get to get your own God of your own understanding, and you get to create that in this step. So mine I created was loving, caring, forgiving, understanding, compassionate, unconditional. So when I wrote that list down, I didn't know that's what I was searching for in myself, but I learned that throughout staying clean. So me running into the liquor store and robbing it and running out, that self will run riot. That's me acting out of my own will. Now if I was to walk into the 7-Eleven, purchase an iced tea and pay for it and walk out, I'm living in God's will. And the only way that I can live in God's will is when I wake up in the morning and I admit that I'm powerless over my disease, and that I get hope from my second step, and then in my third step, it's faith that everything is going to be all right. Regardless of whatever the situation is, whatever comes up in my life, that everything is going to be all right, even when it doesn't turn out the way I want it to. So, and the third step for me is if I'm allowing God in and living God-centered and spiritually centered, and I'm living by honesty, hope, and faith, that my day will go 99.9% super smooth. Now, when I take my will back, my life gets unmanageable. I take my will back, I try to control, then my life gets unmanageable, and then after the unmanageability, the insanity comes in. I forget about that there's a power greater than myself that could restore me to sanity, and then I just don't want to even turn it over to anything. And when I live like that, I'm not spiritually centered, and life is horrible. I'm just miserable that way. I want to act out at all my character defects. I want to choke the next person next to me. You know what I mean? So when I wake up in the morning and admit that I'm powerless over my addiction, and I want to live God-centered today, life is good. I always say nothing can touch me then. I take my will back a lot. People get nervous about that. They say, well, I made this decision, you know. It's okay. Decision is action. And if you take your will back, the cool thing is, here at Narcotics Anonymous, is you can give it back again. I take my will back all the time. Throughout the day, I will take my will back. And then I'm like, okay, all right, God, it's yours. You take it, you know? Or whatever you believe in. That's another blessing that you have here. It says we, turn it to the understanding of a God of our understanding. G-O-D, good orderly direction, a group of drug addicts. Because I know some people come in here with that fear or that mindset that it's that punishing God from when they were little kids, or who their mother used to tell them, if you behave like this, you're going to go to hell. You know, here in Narcotics Anonymous, you get to create your own God of your understanding. It can be whatever you want it to be, as long as it's more powerful than you. It could be the ocean, it could be the universe, it could be Mother Nature, it could be whatever you choose to be. And that's the cool gift that you get here in Narcotics Anonymous. It's not that punishing one. You know, one that you build a relationship with and that you're comfortable with. But you have to have evidence, so you have to go through 1, 2, and 3 to get that evidence that, you know what, that your God's got your back and that you're never alone. That's one thing too. I don't know about you, but when I was using, my God was always there. I made the choice to step away from that on my journey of using. and everything I went through. Now, when I got clean, I know today that's what brought me in the doors of Narcotics Anonymous. That's what brought me into treatment. It gave me like a quick kick in my ass and was like, okay, you need to get in there, because I was able to have that 1 second of clarity and be like, I don't want to live like this anymore. So I knew there was always something there. But today I have the ability to connect that and intertwine it in my life today. And it makes life so much easier. It makes relationships easier with people today, because you don't have to have that control. And when I'm trying to be in control and all that, all I'm doing is my ego's in the way. And when my ego is in the way, I'm just easing God out. But if I'm spiritually centered and I'm God-centered, life is incredible. And like I said, life happens here. Just because we put down the drugs and alcohol, life shows up. Living life on life's terms. But we have the ability today to make that choice to stay the hell out of the way and stay out of our own will, because our evidence and our patterns in our life has showed us that when we do things in our own way, it doesn't ever work out right. We always end up with consequences. Always. But if we do things in God's will and let go of the control, we're not living in unmanageability, we're not fucking running around and being insane, that God's will is a much smoother path for us. But you have to give yourself a chance to be able to apply that in your life. Like I said, don't be scared of the word God. It's just good, orderly direction. I don't know about you guys, but I needed that in my life, because I was running out there and ripping and running and ending up in jail, ending up in prison, ending up in places that I don't even know, you know. But I know today when I wake up and I'm clean, I make healthier choices. And I know I'm never alone. Like NA stands for never alone. And when you can't contact somebody, or you're trying to call your sponsor and they're not answering because they do have lives, you're never alone. You always got that God of your understanding with you that's going to get you through anything that you step up to here in your life, you know. And it's faith, you know. And faith, lack of faith is fear. And fear is, you know, it's like F everything and run, or face everything and recover, you know. And a lot of times we get stuck in fear because we're scared of the unknown and what's going to happen on the outcome. But if you start to develop this relationship with the God of your understanding, you know you're going to be in a safe place, like I said, and you're going to be all right. So this is an action step. I have to practice this every day in my life. You know, do I choose to, you know, run wild and crazy in my own will, or do I choose to live in God's will today? And today I rather walk a spiritual path. It's not a religious thing. Please don't get that twisted. It's not a religious thing in here. It's a spiritual thing. You know, and I need to be open-minded, put on some big Dumbo ears, and be able to get and receive what my God wants for me. So it's important for me to stay in the meeting. It's important for me to stay in contact with my sponsor. It's important for me to work steps, because that's where I'm going to get my answers. That's where my God is going to show up and be like, I'm giving you the evidence. I'm showing you things. Pay attention. You know, that's where the magic will happen. So that's why I always say we got to start taking responsibility for our recovery and live in the moment and be aware of what's going on and be open-minded, because the answers will come, you know. And God's will doesn't mean like, okay, I put an application in for a job, you know, and I'm just going to sit back and relax and I'm going to get it. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to take action. You have to keep being motivated. You have to call them and say, hey, I'm very interested in this job. You know, I put the application in, you know, I'm, you know, available to do this and that. You can't just rely on God's will just to pop up in your life and things are going to happen. You have to do some footwork. That's really, really important. You have to do some footwork. You know, when you want things in life, we go and get them, because we were good at doing that when we wanted drugs and alcohol. But now today we want things in our life that are better for us, but we have to take some action. But the God of your understanding is always going to walk right next to you. You know, always. And if you don't believe in this, believe that I believe. Because I've seen so many miracles, so many blessings happen through my journey of recovery here, that I believe. You know, and I keep the faith alive as much as I can Don't get it twisted. I have days where I want to control things. I want to have it my way, and I want to, be like, but at the end of the day, I know God's will is the best will for me. I know the difference of that today. I know in my gut when I'm acting out in self-will, and I know when I'm acting out in God's will. And it's a spiritual thing, guys. Please remember that. And so I just try to live by those. So I've been able to gain some honesty, acceptance, some surrender, some hope, and now I got some faith in my pocket. So I got these principles, so there's no excuse for me to use today. I've had the evidence. I've seen things happen because I've been coming long enough to get to step 3 to see the miracles. So if you're having a really shitty day, go back to step 1, remind yourself that you're powerless over the situation and that your life does get unmanageable. And when the unmanageability comes, the insanity comes. So we have an opportunity in our 3rd step just to let it go. Just let go and let God. Or let go and be dragged. That can happen in here. Because I'm going to tell you guys right now, I truly believe when my God knows when I'm full of beep, because I can't say the word, because I could sit here and pray all day long and say, God, please take this from me. I surrender. I surrender. My God knows when I'm truly surrendering. And when I truly surrender, it leaves. Whatever it is, whatever's going on in my head, it truly leaves. And the obsession to use will leave also. Just keep that in mind. It will leave also. But remember, your God knows when you're full of, So get real with yourself, get with some self-honesty, and God's will provide in your life always for you. Thank you.